All right, hey guys, Luke here, and I just wanted to promised I would answer some questions, and so I had a couple remaining left that I didn't get to about a week ago. So I'll answer one now, and then I'll do another one to post another day. So the first one was minutes over miles. What is better? And the truth is, I don't really think anyone is better than the other. I just think that they've all got different circumstances, right? So I've actually been coached with miles my whole life. So since middle school, high school, college, professional, everything was written in miles. And that's not to say, minutes are less. It's just that's what I'm used to, right? So I definitely think that there's a place for both, though, and I use both when I'm writing schedules for folks. So I don't necessarily think that one's better. And honestly, the body's not going to recognize whether you're running a certain amount of miles or a certain amount of time. It's going to recognize time more than it is miles. So it's not necessarily beneficial either way, really. So where I will use time over miles is when somebody has a hard time scheduled, right? So I coach a few people who they literally can't have anything go over an hour and a half in the morning, and that's when they do their workout. So we try to fit around that time frame. So a lot of times things will be written in, run for 60 minutes, or do a moderate run for an hour 20 or something to that effect, right? Or we'll do a fartlek where it's all warm up for 15 minutes, do 5 times 2 minutes or whatever the case is, and then cool down the remaining time. So just to make sure that we fit into that time frame. I'll also use it for newer runners who are just looking to increase volume, just because you can control the increase a little bit more precisely. So a lot of times, say I try to get somebody to exercise 5 times a week, and we'll just focus on 30 minutes at a time. We won't even put an effort on it. We'll just say 30 minutes. And then the next week, maybe we say 2 of those days are at 40 minutes. And, so I can control it in smaller, more precise increments of volume increase. Whereas if I would just say run 4 miles one week, and then on the same day the next week run 6 miles, it's only 2 miles, but that might mean a difference of 20 minutes, right? And I don't want to necessarily bump it up that much. I could bump up, maybe 5 minutes a few times a week and get an increase that's going to be safer for them, but still increase their overall volume. The third time is when a person is coming back from a hard segment. So a lot of times, like with a marathon segment, we'll give them their downtime, we'll come back, and it'll be the same thing. Might even be like just 7 days off, and then start with 30 minutes every other day, very light, and then over time we just increase the volume. But then once we get the volume back up to roughly 75% of where they were at before as far as just volume, then we'll switch over to miles, things like that. But again, I like it because we're focusing more just on putting time in rather than a certain amount of volume. And because a lot of times when we put the volume, you want to say at a certain pace, and I don't necessarily want to have that pace be a variable at that time. I just want them to go out and put some time on their legs. All right, then the last one is during extreme winter or extreme summer, right? Where winter is a perfect example here in Michigan, where you'll have plenty of snow, it's icy, it's windy, and to say I want you to go run at 8 miles at marathon pace doesn't really fit the conditions, right? So I might say I want you to put 45 to 60 minutes at marathon effort in, and then I can control that by the effort is there, right? But the pace isn't going to line up, and I don't want them to get caught up in, well, I was so slow, I wasn't even close to marathon pace, but that wasn't really the point of it. I just wanted to put marathon effort in for an extended amount of time. So, and then you can say the same thing in the summer. If it's oppressively hot, telling somebody to run a certain distance at a certain pace doesn't necessarily make sense, and I can just say, go run for 30 minutes at your half marathon effort, right? And we'll just take pace out of it and distance out of it completely. We'll just go put a volume of time in. So those are the 4 times I usually use it. Sometimes I will for long runs too. Some of my favorite workouts that I give people are the long runs. I'll go 90 minutes up to 2.5 hours, and just take a lot of the other variables out of it. But I don't usually do 2.5 hours straight. Usually it's like 90 minutes to an hour 45. And it's usually one of those situations where I said where somebody's just coming back from an injury or they're coming from a hard segment. And I don't want them to really be too focused on paces and distance at that point. I don't want them to be using those as benchmarks right then. The Squires long run, I love giving those I will give to people, and I'll give those to people throughout a hard marathon segment, because with the Squires long run it's kind of like a fartlek for a long run, where it's you warm up, you basically run easy to moderate for a certain amount of time, and then you throw in a bunch of different repeats at marathon pace, sometimes a little bit faster than marathon pace, and then cool down the remaining distance. But it's all based on time and not necessarily a set distance. So I like doing those, especially if we need to accumulate more volume at marathon pace and they can't get the big tempo runs in during the week. I can use these for a 2-for-1 over the weekend. Another one is the 5x5. That's my favorite workout in college. We only did this maybe 3 times in a segment, and this was mainly done during cross country, but we do it once in the beginning of the season, like right when we got back to campus. We'd do it during the middle of our cross country season, and then we would do it right before championship racing season, which would be pre-nationals, conference, and then regionals and nationals for us. So that was a great workout. And all it was is, and this is before the era of GPS. GPS didn't exist when I did this workout, but it was essentially our coach had a loop. It was way outside of town, and he knew the distance of it, but we never knew the distance of it. And it was far enough out of town that we never ran out there to kind of see how far it was. Our loops would never let us go out that far. So he was set it up pretty secretly by him, but he always knew where the mile was. And essentially we would go 5 times 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes, the hard effort, we tried to get further than the last 5 minutes. So you'd really have to kind of pace yourself. So early on, it was kind of a free-for-all, and you'd see people fade off and not even finish the workout. So it was really like teaching you, one, he was trying to see where we were at, if we'd actually run during the summer, and 2, how our pacing was. And then you would use those benchmarks in the middle of the season and then right before championship season to really kind of see how your fitness was coming along. So I love a workout like that. And that definitely fits well into, that would fit well now if you're training for speed, even a half marathon. I think that would work out pretty well, something like that. And it's just fun to do too, because you kind of get in that competitive mode during a workout when sometimes it's just kind of monotonous and you're just trying to get through it. Another one I like is 2 times 3 times 1, 2, 3 minutes. So this is more of a faster type of fartlek, and we would do this a lot in cross country too, especially in the winter when we had lots of dirt roads, but they'd be icy and stuff like that, so we could just go on effort and not, because we never really wanted to be on the indoor track as little as we could. But I give this a lot to people, especially in build-ups, and then people who are introducing themselves into speed segments as well. But I love it because it's basically 2 to 3 sets of 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, and early on I might take equal rest. So if I go 1 minute hard, I go 1 minute easy, 2 minutes hard, 2 minutes of rest, 3 minutes hard, 3 minutes easy, and then you start the next cycle. And there's a million ways you can do it. So you can go 1, 2, 3, then back down to 3, 2, 1, go climb the ladder, come back down the ladder. As you get more fit, you might keep the rest really, really short. So you might go 1, 2, 3, but you might only have 30 seconds to a minute between each repeat. And that's a really good workout to do. But it's really nice because you can do it anywhere. You just do it on a run wherever you're running. And those last 2 are the 5x5 was kind of a in between a speed and kind of maybe a threshold type of workout. The fartlek, like I just said, is definitely more of a speed type of workout. And then last we have 3x10 minutes, and I'll do this a lot. I'll give this a lot in the winter. I'll do this as like strength effort or lactate threshold effort for people who aren't training for a marathon. But it's nice because if you have a situation where you can't really get on you're not really going to be able to measure distance and time. We can just go 3 times 10 minutes at a kind of a threshold type of effort, and it's the stimulus of time is right in there. You're accumulating 30 minutes of time at that higher level, and you don't necessarily have to put that benchmark into distance and pace, which is really why I guess mainly the reason why I don't necessarily give volume sometimes, because I really just want you to focus on an effort for a time and get used to that, because then you have to really kind of learn gauging yourself and not necessarily just looking at a watch and saying, well, I'm at this, you have to like rely more on internal feedback than what the watch is telling you. So there's lots of ways to do it. And obviously if you followed anything from me, the vast majority of stuff I give is in miles, but there's definitely situations for using time as your main variable. So hopefully that helps you, gives you some ideas as you move forward, and I'll talk to you again later. All right, see you guys.